Good afternoon, all. So, in the last class, we were discussing about system. So, as I told you, system is something which is going to perform a task over a given input signal so that the input signal will be transformed or changed to a new output y of t. So, the input can be represented as x of t. Your output is changed to y of t. That is nothing but the task or the operation performed by the system. So suppose you have a system and you give an input signal x of t, then you will get an output signal y of t such that y of t is the transformation of x of t. So this t represents the transformation. Okay. So any electronic system that you take a summer, adder, multiplier, then integrator, differentiator, all these things can be considered as a system. Even amplifier is a system. The communication, what we are doing now through this internet, this is also a system because it is having a transformation. It is doing some sort of transformation so that the input x of t is converting to a proper output signal y of t. So it is actually the engineers who is going to design the system because he only needs the required output and he has the input. So he will design the system accordingly so that it will produce the desired output y of t from the input x of t. Clear? So the specifications will be given to the designer or it will be available to the designer or the engineer and he is responsible to design the system. For example, I can tell you, suppose I am having power cut issues, power failure issues, and because of that my television is very sensitive towards this power issues or the fluctuations whatever I have in my home. So I am a layman point of view, you think just a layman point of view, and I have gone to the market and have purchased one stabilizer, okay, and that stabilizer is intended to sort out all these power failure or power fluctuation issues in my home so that this television will be protected from the undesirable transients in between. So that can be considered as a system. But as a layman point of view, I won't be able to tell the specifications in the market. Okay. So I'll be telling that I need a stabilizer for the television. So from the R&D, that is research and development team of the industry, they will be finding the problems faced by the society and they are responsible. This being engineers, we are responsible for providing solutions to all the problems that we are facing nowadays. Clear? So we need the output and we have the input with us. The input is nothing but the fluctuated signal, whatever that is the KSEB is supplying, the state electricity board is supplying, is it? And we have to provide a system in such a way that that system should be able to provide an output which is a fluctuation free output, or we need a steady state output. That is always the magnitude of the AC output will be 23 volt, 230 volt peak to peak or 50 hertz in frequency, because unnecessary fluctuations will lead the output signal below 200 volt or 190 volt that will create severe damage to the televisions or fridge or AC. Okay, so if somehow the fluctuations or the transients has come down to 190 volt, then we need to boost the voltage towards 220 or 230, perhaps 40 volt we need to boost. And there can be many situations during thundering and all, lightning and thundering, the voltage may rise up to 290 volt. So in that case, we need to bring this output voltage or the supply voltage down to 230 from 290. So 60 volt need to buck. So depending upon the situation or circumstance, either we need to increase the voltage or we need to decrease the voltage. So that and all depends upon the system requirements. Okay, so all these issues we need to handle, the system designers or the engineers, they need to handle, and accordingly we are going to design the system so as to provide the output based upon the input. So according to the layman point of view, he will be knowing the input and output alone, but he is unaware about the specification. So it is the responsibility of the engineers who is going to develop the specifications of the system, and based upon that specifications they will develop the circuitry, and this circuitry will be complicated, and each and every module it will be separately designed, and finally they will be cumulated or it will be reconnected together to form the final product. So once a final product has been designed from the R&D, research and development team, then it will be going to the lab for testing purpose. What do you mean by testing? Why in testing, what we are going to do? Can anybody tell what we are going to do in a testing lab? In R&D, we have researched the problem faced by the society, and based upon that problem, we have developed a product. But it not necessary that product is success in all aspects. So from the lab, we need to check the output of this particular product, whether it is successful or not. And based upon, we need to make the necessary changes. Students, are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. So in the lab, we need to find the fault in the product, because only the thing is that based upon the required output, we have developed one product. So the output of the product, we need to check with all the aspects of the input. Okay. If the input has gone below 190 volt or it is 180 volt, then we need to boost 50 volt approximately. If it is 170, we need to boost 70 volt. So that and all it is doing by the same system, but with the different inputs. So we have designed a particular system which is able to boost required voltage based upon the present status of the input. So we need to check the output, all the possible inputs, whatever we have. So we will be giving all the inputs and we will take outputs and check whether the desired output is we are getting or not. If we are getting the proper output in all the possible cases of inputs, then we can say that whatever we have designed, that particular product, it is successful. And now we will go for the prototype development. What do you mean by prototype? Prototype means same copy we are fabricating or we are manufacturing 2 to 3 products. As of now, I have done with one product and I have checked the feasibility of the product. If it is okay, means we will go for the 3 to 4 duplicate copies, and again we will check the outputs based upon the inputs. If everything is okay, means we will go for the production, that is in the manufacturing company. We will have the production. That depends upon the demand of the society. If that particular society needs 100 to 1000 number of products, then accordingly the marketing people will have a communication with the manufacturing unit, and accordingly we will we will develop the number of products. Ultimately, our aim is to increase the income for the company. So for that only, the people are working. The engineers are working. But the thing is that the product should be very handy for it should be very portable for the users. Also, at the same time, it should be everlasting. There should not be any damages for the electronic components inside that. So what happens if one of the component is damaged, means the entire working will stop, and finally they have to replace that product or they have to go for the service. So periodic service is also not suitable, or it is also not desirable. So it should be everlasting. But if a product is everlasting, means from the designer point of view, we have to take so much precautions, or high-end components we need to use, isn't it? Efficient components we need to use. If we need to use perfect components, or if we are forced to use highly efficient electronic components, means we need to compromise in one factor. What is that? Can anybody tell? I will repeat the question. If we are, as an engineer, if we are forced to use high-end products, means very efficient components inside of the electronic product, in one aspect we need to compromise. What is that aspect, or what is that parameter?
Sir, cost.
Sir.
Very good, it is the cost. But what happens if I increase the cost of the product? The product is not at all sold, or it is not acceptable for the common people. They will hesitate to buy the product on the market. After all, there is no profit for the company. So there should be a trade-off between the design point of view and the marketing point of view. Ultimate aim is to make the product to sell. So for that, we need to modify the system. If we modify the system, means we will be using some components which are very less cost, or cheap components we will be making use of. But if we use cheap components, the efficiency or working of the system may change. We won't be able to get the desired output in some situations, or the product will not be so long. I mean, it will not have a long life. In that way also, it is becoming more useful for the company or the industry, because if the product is not living for long, or its age is very less, means the customers will be buying the product, or they will be replacing the product after 10 years or 3 years or 5 years, like that. So in that case, they can have more production from the industries. So all the aspects we need to think, and accordingly we are going to design the system based upon the desired output. So got what a system is? A system is nothing but an electronic product, or it is an entity which is going to perform some task over the input x of t, so that it will get a convenient output y of t. Example is an amplifier can be considered as a system. Okay. Side heading, continuous time system. Side heading, continuous time system. The last module we have discussed about continuous time signal. In this module, we will be discussing about the continuous time system. Any system can be called as a continuous time system if it is processing with a continuous time signal, and it is giving out a continuous time signal as the output. So both output and input, they are continuous in nature. Okay. Both input and output, they will be continuous time in nature. In that particular aspect, system can be called as a continuous time system. So if x of t is a continuous time signal like this, and y of t can be like this again, let it be 5 volt peak to peak. So what is the peak to peak value? It is 10 volt peak to peak. And after processing, the system is producing a 20 volt peak to peak output. And when you observe this example, both the input and output are continuous time signals. It is a sinusoidal waveform. So what is the change that you observed in this particular example? The change is the output has got doubled, or it has got amplified with a factor of dash. With a factor of
2.
Yes, with a factor of 2, 10 into 2, you got a 20 volt peak to peak output as y of t. So this can be considered as an amplifier which is acting as a continuous time system. Why it is known as a continuous time system? Because it is processing over a continuous time signal, and it is producing an output which is again a continuous in nature. That is why this system is called continuous time system. Hope it is clear for you. But in many systems, whatever you are using nowadays, like your phone, cell phone, or digital camera, or whatever system it is prefixed with the digital word, that and all they will be dealing with digital signals only. Why we are dealing with the digital, not analog? Because analog is very interactive with noise, or there is more chance of noise signals to be interacted or interrupted with the message. So ultimately, if you hear the output, you won't be able to reproduce the original message whatever I have sent from the transmitter, because I have sent analog signal or continuous time signal as such. Analog is nothing but continuous time in nature. But nowadays, all the systems, almost all the systems nowadays, it is getting digitized. Everything is getting digitized and automized. Everything is having memory also, isn't it? The system is having memory. Your phone is having memory. The laptop is having memory. They are able to store the message whatever we are giving as input. At later time, we are able to retrieve those messages at any desired point of time. In that aspect, all the systems whatever we are using nowadays, they are digital systems. So in the digital systems, again, there will be some systems, intermediate systems, where they are trying to process a discrete time signal and producing an output which is again a discrete time signal. In that case, the systems is called as discrete time system. So continuous time system will be using analog signals, whereas the discrete time systems is specifically designed for digital systems, because we are not giving any continuous signals in nature. We are giving a sampled signals as input, and we will be taking the output also in a sampled manner. It is not continuous in manner, it is discrete in manner. So citing discrete time system. Hope you are taking down the lecture notes. I'll be sharing the notes later. But as of now, whatever you can, you just write. Okay. The important points, whatever I am speaking, you just make it down. Next is discrete time system. So a system can be called as a discrete time system if it is processing a discrete time input x of n, and it is producing again an output y of n, and both are in discrete domain. So it is discrete time sequence. So both are in discrete in domain. They are not continuous in nature. So in that aspect, the system is called as discrete time system or discrete system. Discrete time system. So the input we are producing or giving, from this input, the system will work or system will perform a task, and it will produce an output y of n, such that y of n is equal to transformation of x of n. That is, output is nothing but a transformation version of input x of n. Y of n equal to capital T of x of n. So if you take any digital electronic products, that comes under discrete time system, like digital camera, digital TV, digital phones, everything having memory, having a storage space, that and all it comes under discrete time system. Any doubts? Subheading properties of system. properties of system. The basic properties of continuous time and discrete time systems are the basic properties of continuous time and discrete time systems are first one, linearity. Second one, time invariance. Third one, memory. Fourth one, causality. C-A-U-S-A-L-I-T-Y. Fifth one, stability. Sixth one, invertibility. So these are basically 6 different properties of a system. So you will be giving a system and we need to check all the properties of that particular system. That is what is the objective of this module. That is, you need to check whether a system is linear or not. You need to check whether a system is time invariant or not. You need to check whether a system is having memory or not. You need to check whether a system is called as causal or not. And you need to check whether a system is stable or not. And finally, invertible or not. And you need to comment that the system is a linear, the system is time invariant, like that. So in one question, you will be asked to do all the 5 properties, not the 6th property, rarely it will be asking, but all the other 5 properties you need to check for one system. So like that, you will be having the question from this module. So you need to identify all these properties. You need to understand the properties, then only you can do the numericals. Clear? So firstly, before going for the numericals, we will be going with these properties, dealing with these properties, and how we can check whether a system is a linear or not, time invariant or not, memory or not, causal or not, stable or not, or invertible or not. So first one, linearity. First one, linearity. Hope it is audible, students. Thank you, Surya. So first property is linearity property. A system can be called as linear. A system can be called as linear if it satisfies. A system can be called as linear if it satisfies the principle of superposition. The principle of superposition. That is, if an input consists of, that is, if an input consists of weighted sum of several inputs, weighted sum of several inputs, then the output is the weighted sum of weighted sum of WAGSTD, weighted sum of responses of the system responses of the system to each of the signals. To each of the signals. You need to read this sentence 2 and 3 times. Kindly do it. Read and read. 3 times you read and understand the concept. So a system can be called as a linear system if it satisfies this condition. The condition is known as superposition principle. And what do you mean by superposition principle is that if you are giving an input as, let it be x of t, you can consider the input as x of t, and this x of t is producing an output y of t, such that the transformation of x of t will get you y of t. But consider if this x of t is a weighted sum of two inputs. Weighted sum of two inputs. What do you mean by weighted sum? Weighted means we are going to put a weight. Means you are going to multiply with the scaling factor. Okay. What is the meaning of weighted? Weighted is nothing but multiplying with the scaling factor. So weighted sum of two inputs means we have two inputs and we are multiplying those two inputs with the scaling factor, and then we are summing. Clear? I will repeat. Weighted sum is nothing but we are taking two inputs, multiplying those two inputs with the scaling factor, then we are adding, and then we are giving the entire thing as input to the system. So x of t can now be split as a x1 of t plus b x2 of t. This is called as weighted sum of inputs. Clear? So if you are giving this as the input to the system, okay, rather than giving x of t, what we are giving now, we are giving this as the input. Then if the system is producing an output y of t such that y of t is called as response. What is y of t? Y of t is called response. See, I am giving some inputs to you. Consider that you are the system. Your brain is a system. I am giving x of t as the input. All these, whatever I am teaching now, it is your input. Your brain has processed and you are giving some response to me. Means that response is nothing but y of t. Clear? If system is not working means there is no output, isn't it? If you people are not working means there is no response, my input is wasted. Clear? So ax1 of t plus bx2 of t is the weighted sum of the input which is given to the system, and the system is producing an output y of t such that y of t is again a weighted sum of the response towards individual outputs. What is the individual input? Individual input is x1 of t and x2 of t. The response of the system towards the individual input can be called as y1 of t and y2 of t. And the weighted sum of the output is nothing but a y1 of t plus b y2 of t. The individual inputs are x1 of t and x2 of t. Okay. And the response for these individual inputs can be written as y1 of t and y2 of t. And the weighted sum of outputs can be called as a y1 of t plus b y2 of t. So if my system is able to produce the weighted sum of response to each of the signals, then that system can be called as a linear system or satisfying the superposition principle. I will repeat once again. The concept is very simple. I will repeat once again. I will rub the board and I will do it. I have taken one system. I have taken one system, and to that system I have given x of t as the input, and the system will perform the task over this input and it will produce an output y of t. This is the first case. From this we can't say that the system is linear. To check the linearity, what we have to do is you need to split this x of t as weighted sum of two inputs. You need to split this x of t as weighted sum of two inputs. That is nothing but the multiplying the scaling factor and adding the two components. Now this is called as weighted sum of two inputs. Now I will take the same system again, and instead of giving x of t, I will give this as the input. That is ax1 of t plus bx2 of t as the input. Then it should be able to produce a signal y of t such that that output should be again the weighted sum of individual responses. What is this individual response? Individual response means to that system, if you are giving x1 of t as the input, output is y1 of t. This is one response. The same system, if you are giving x2 of t as the input, then y2 of t should be your output. These are called individual responses. Here, these are called individual responses. And ultimately, I am getting an output which is equal to weighted sum of individual responses. Then I can call this system as a linear system. Any doubts? Concept wise, any doubt? One of you can respond. Okay, Surya.
No doubt, sir.
Okay, thank you. Now, the same thing is applicable for discrete also. Just now I have written the same, written the concept in continuous time version, but same thing is applicable for discrete also. Like we need to replace t with n. That is all. Hope you have taken down on this. So for discrete version, what I will do is again I will draw a system. I will give x of n as the input. I will get y of n as the output. And later what I will do? I will give a x1 of n plus b x2 of n as the input, so that the output will become a y1 of n plus b y2 of n, where y1 of n is the transformation of x1 of n and y2 of n is equal to transformation of x2 of n. So if this is happening means the system is linear. Therefore, we can write a comment like this. weighted sum of inputs should produce weighted sum of responses to the individual inputs. So if this has happened means the system is linear. Whenever a system is not able to produce the weighted sum of responses as the output, then we can call that system as non-linear system. In another 1 minute, this meeting will get end. You can relog in with the same link again. Second property, time invariance. I'll drop the board. Second property, time invariance. A time invariant system is one for which